From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Welcome to the show. My guest, former Rifter. He's done the show before, the great Craig Rainey. How are you, Craig?
I'm great. Thank you, Keith. Good to see you again. It seems like so long. What was it, 3 weekends ago?
It was last week.
It was last week.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been a bourbon and two between that time and now. So
Yeah. You've
anyway.
been golfing.
Yeah. It's let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it at the golfing.
Yeah.
No, for
I'm
the
not good.
you're not good at golfing?
I am not. I'm okay. I'm tough sport.
Are you better than Trump and Biden?
No, I'm not better than Biden because apparently he's a 6 handicap and I'm not that.
I don't know. I don't even know the rules of golf, but when they started arguing about that, I was just like, "Oh Lord!"
Yeah, when you use golf as a verb, I know you don't play. It's
Yeah.
Hey, but I have been taking your advice. I've been working on my 3 to 5 minute stand up routine.
Oh, have you? This is awesome. This is excellent news.
Yeah. So
Have you done an open mic yet, or no?
never. In fact, I never even thought about doing it until you and I were talking about it. You said, "Oh, you got some going behind you, and you got the confidence." And I spent enough time with you, and then this past weekend with TJ and Cash, and you guys are pros. I've learned in my life that when people make it look easy, it typically is not. That's right. That's why you're handsomely rewarded for what you do.
Oh, why?
But I'm going to give it a try.
Oh no, you should definitely give it a try. But you know what else is not easy is writing books. So like I actually really admire you for that because
Appreciate it.
I don't know if I've told you, but I've been trying to write a book for 10 years and I'm only on the title page. So
Are you doing Sanskrit? I mean, are you sitting there?
no, like I have an idea, but I write it and then I'm like, this is crap. So then I erase it. But I love the title. The title is called Keith Reza, How to Annoy Yourself to the Top.
Annoy yourself to the top. I like that. Good subtitle.
Yeah. But the whole rest of the book is crap. I don't know what I'm writing. So
shoot. Well, it's this one is number 7 for me. And
anyway. This one's called Hoodoo War, right?
Hoodoo War, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it came out in February, March this year. I forget exactly when I finally got it published, but I am self-published. And it's I have found in writing that it's not the writing that's so difficult, which you'll find out in the next 3 or 4 years when you finish your book. It's the publishing game and getting it out there so people will read it, which I'm enjoying pretty decent sales right now with it. I'm on every platform, including I've got physical copies in Barnes and Noble here in Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Have you ever done like what's that called where like the writer goes and signs books and talks about it?
Book signing or that?
Book signings, yeah.
Barnes and Noble has offered me to do that. It's just I don't jet set like you do, but I've got a pretty busy schedule, and I haven't been able to work it out where I can just take a Saturday off and do that. It would be good for my writing, of course, but really, it hasn't been my focus. When you become an old man like me, you have more years behind you than you have left in front of you, so you have to spend a lot of time working on that.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that book signing is probably one of the funnest parts if you actually did it because you get to meet people because you don't realize that like when people read your books and stuff, it changes their lives, and that's why they go to these things, right?
Really?
Oh, dude, definitely. Like every book signing I've ever gone to, like they always expect like, oh, there's nobody going to be there, and then they see a big line. And they're like, wait, all these people read my book? Like, it's actually fascinating. You know what I mean? Because it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think you would find it to be a really cool experience if you did it.
Well, I'll do it. You don't need to step through all these new doors, stand up. That'll be a laugh on its own. And then book signing. And I'm kind of tongue in cheek on that. I have considered when you're a writer, and I feel like that I've been given the gift as a writer. And when you're a writer, I'm glad that I can impact people's lives through them reading it.
Yeah.
But I'd never put that together with the film thing, because I've done, quite a bit of film, and I've done a lot of festivals, a lot of premieres. I've done a lot of signing of autographs and shaking hands and going to pictures, that kind of thing. And I that's something where I'm typically, pushing for somebody else's project that I happen to be in. My own, I almost feel like it's self-serving, and I have trouble with that.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm more of a pitch man for others than I am for myself, but I'll turn that leaf.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you find it like, I don't know, like, because you said you're more of a pitch man. Do you find it uncomfortable when the attention's on you, or like how does your mind work like that?
Tough question. Yeah, I think so. It's. I was talking to a colleague of mine, an actress, and she lives in LA, and very talented. She's just finished wrapping her movie right now. But I was talking to her about it, and she says, "Well, you just seem comfortable in every situation, and you seem like a real stand-up guy, and of course, I always play the heavier cop in anything I do." So uh, she has this impression of me that I'm a super social person. But Keith, you'd be surprised. I am a lot more like you.
Really?
Than, yeah, then I'm a lot more like you than what people think I'm me. You know,
Yeah.
I've done public speaking, all this kind of stuff. But really, I have a very small group of core friends, and I know thousands of people just like you do. But I'm really only comfortable with just a few people, and
Yeah.
that's why I've enjoyed our time together, because yeah, we're family, but we have some great conversations, and I like the fact that you're kind of you're my favorite connoisseur of life. I mean, a guy that doesn't like strawberries will try a strawberry malted Whataburger, and he's and you out there, he goes, I don't like strawberries. I said, well, that's probably not the thing you want to do. He
And
says,
not,
no, but
not the strawberry.
I try everything, and then he ate it and didn't like it, and I said, well, I tell you, I had to try it. I said, well, so I mean, anybody that'll jump in the icy waters and do it knowingly, hey, you've got my respect. But
Well, no, because like I said, I feel like you can't knock something down unless you try it. If you've tried it and you honestly didn't like it, then you have my respect to knock whatever down. But like you gotta like, it's kind of like when you watch movies and stuff. Whenever someone says, "Oh, uh, I don't like this one movie because so and so's in it," but you never saw the
got that a
movie,
lot.
so you're knocking the movie down.
Yeah.
Not, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like it's a totally different thing. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about trying everything. It
Uh,
tastes like
yeah,
dog
yeah.
shit. Glad we no step in it. I don't know. There's some things I won't try.
It's like, yeah, you keep knocking heroin down. I'm not saying that. Don't do that.
Hey, you're not. I don't know. Maybe you'll talk me to that too. You taught me to everything else.
No, don't do that. But I'm just saying, like, so maybe that's bad advice too. I don't know, but yeah.
Mm,
But no, I had a blast with you this weekend. We went to the Alamo. That
we
was
did.
cool. And
Yeah.
man,
Yeah. I got a big dose of TJ Miller on that one.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like, we went to the Alamo, and I've found that I've learned that people in other states don't have their state history, and that's one of the things he talked about. He goes, "Well, you guys, you take Texas history in school." Well, yeah, we had to, and so you've got all these. You got probably, what is there, 30 million of us in the state, so 30 million Texans. We're all historians. All of us know something about our state. So we went to the Alamo, and of course, TJ asked me some questions, and I think I got everything right except for the number of people in the Alamo. I
yeah.
think it's 1,200, and I think there was 120. Something 10 where I shouldn't have. But no, it's fascinating. I haven't been there since I was a kid.
Really, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't. I've never been there, and if I have been there, it was when I was a kid, and I don't remember it.
yeah.
So, like, I thought it was very fascinating because I just thought because when you go in there, you look at it, right? Because it's actually pretty small, right?
Mhm.
And everyone who was in there, like, you just have to imagine, like, back in the olden days, they weren't doing tours or something. They were fighting for their lives in there, and everyone in there, it was like looking at everything. So you gotta like examine that perspective. How isn't that crazy?
It
You know what I
is.
mean?
Yeah. Well, pretty much all that area is considered hallowed ground, because I mean, it was a very large uh, position for 120 men to occupy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, I don't want to get into the Alamo thing, but did have a good time. What interests me, and I think I mentioned this to you, is one thing I didn't know about TJ Miller is he is a student of people, which as a stand-up comedian, I guess that would be that. But anytime he meets somebody, he interviews them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I was you and TJ and Cash were talking to one of the guides, and I went over and I was checking out some of the other rooms, and I came back and walked over in mid conversation, and so TJ is talking to this guide, and I thought they'd be talking about something about history, and he goes, so how do you get a job like this, to be a guide? And she goes, well, do you find it nerve wracking? I'm just what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well, so in a
that's
way,
interesting.
that's how he's writing his jokes for
Mhm.
the next show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's a real writing style too. I mean, because I when I interview people, I'm writing jokes in my head too. So I'm trying to, you know what I mean? It's a skill that I feel artists have. Like I feel you have that skill too, but some random car salesman I don't think has those type of skills.
Maybe
Some,
not. Yeah, it's good to pick on those guys too, but
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting when I hang out with accomplished people, like TJ and you and Cash and some of the other people that I've had the privilege to meet and work with in the film business. There is a skill set, an innate skill set that seems to go with that, and a lot of it seems to be that I can't come up with the word, but I'm an author, right? But that relating to others and trying to get inside their head a little bit, and so yeah, so and I think that understanding of how people operate could be a source of humor. I guess it's kind of like one of those things. I was on the golf course, and I think that as we get older, we lose our sense of humor, and not that I think that older people don't think things are funny, but life is kind of a joke anyway. It's the same format. When you're young, it's a setup. Middle age, it's the joke, and then when you're old like me, you're the punchline.
But yeah, it's so funny. And so I wanted to ask you, how long does it take you? Maybe I've asked you this before, but how long does it take you to write a book like this book that you just finished, the
Mhm.
Wood War? How long did it take you to write it?
That was a year, and
Okay.
it's thanks for getting back on the book. I'm bunny trail, but this one, born and raised in San Angelo, Texas, and of course I live in the Austin area now. But I read that, and I'm getting to a point. I'm saying to say something else, and I read that the Mason County Courthouse had burned down. Well, that Mason, Texas, it's 100 miles from here, maybe 100 miles from
Yeah.
here. And so I went, somebody burned it down because when I was a kid, we used to go through Mason all the time from San Angelo, making it out to San Antonio, or which where we ultimately moved as a family, and. Anyway, when I found it burned down, I went, "What?" And some guy burned it down. Turned out he got 75 years. They caught him, but anyway, so I was kind of took it personally, because
Yeah.
I've seen that courthouse for all my life growing up. Turns out that the courthouse has burned down three times since the first one was built
Jesus.
in the 1860s. Three times, and anyway, the first one was right after the Mason County War, and ostensibly they never caught the arson. Ostensibly, it was burned down to hide all the records of all the misdeeds that were done.
Mhm.
Second time was in the early 1900s, and then third time was 2021. So the reason I'm saying that is I've always been a fan of westerns, and when I read this, I thought, man, wouldn't it be a great idea if I could do this or that? And by I'm being vague, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to write a historically based fiction novel.
Mhm.
I don't want to. I'm not a historian. In fact, historians, if this book gets read, historians are going to lambast me. They're going to tear me apart because there's not a whole lot because of the burned down church and Mason County residents are uh, historically and well-known closed-mouth people. They just don't talk. It might be part of the German heritage, but anyway, so there's not a lot known about it, and so everybody who's an expert has a different viewpoint on how things went. So I did a lot of research. And the reason I say it took me a year, it took me probably 3 or 4 months of steady research, and I went to old bookstores. In fact, San Angelo, my hometown, has got this great one downtown. And on the back it's out of print, turn of the century and earlier authors unknown. And so I got some of those books, and it gave me a lot of insight on how things were there. I did a lot of research, Texas Historical Society. Anyway, so once I got all that done, then what I did is I created the story based upon the Mason County War. And the reason it's called Hoodoo War is because the locals, that's what they called it. They named it Hoodoo War, and the reason for it is when they were these guys wore hoods and they were lynching people, and so in those days somebody wore a hood and was part of a vigilante group was called a hoodoo.
Yeah.
So they called it Hoodoo War, and so what I did is I would say my fictional characters are probably maybe 5 of them, maybe 6 out of the whole book are fictional. The rest of them are complete historical, true life characters. And Keith, the beauty of it, thank God he gave me the writer's gift, because it's like I've been there. My
Right.
characters walked amongst these historical figures,
Yeah.
and these historical figures, which are just names, they came to life. And there was there was a couple famous guys there. Johnny Ringo was a part of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and anyway, so he's in the book, and he is my main character. They get to know each other, and I don't want to give anything away, but my main character, Johnny Ringo takes a shine to him.
Yeah.
And there's some debate whether Johnny Ringo actually was in the Mason County War. Well, I also read later that he became an alderman in Mason County or something of that nature, some type of official, whether it's a deputy sheriff, alderman, something like that. So he was definitely there. And but he was quite a colorful character. And of course, later on, he went to Tombstone, and that was his demise. But anyway, so that's how I wrote it. It took me a year to do it. That being said, I'm giving you a long answer. I've got a series that I write called the Carson Brand series, and it's an action adventure thing, like Bourne, or who's the big one right now? Lee Child writes it.
It's this one, Stolen Value, right?
Yeah, there you go, Stolen Valor. Yeah,
Yeah. It was about the underground tunnels.
Yeah. So you've read some of it.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. To be honest, I'm like only on chapter like 9 or 10, because I'm not like, when I read stuff, I have to read stuff over and over again because with my learning disability, right. So it takes me a while to understand, and like I highlight words I don't understand, and then like I Google what those words mean.
So you read at the same pace you write.
Yeah. So reading a book is it's very difficult for me, to be 100% honest with you, but I do read.
Do you like audiobooks? Does that help?
Yeah. Do you do audiobooks?
I've got one. I've got a nonfiction. Everything I've got is going to go to audio. It's just funding it. I want it to be pro. Everything I do, I want it to be the marketplace. But I did my own voicing on my book. It's behind me. The Art of Professional Sales.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was a sales trainer, motivational speaker for a while, and so it just kind of fits.
How many times did you read your own book for that audio?
Yes.
No, but how many times did you read it? Like,
well, I did it in takes, just like in a movie. I bought a mixing board, and I've got a podcast that I do, so I've got a mixing board, and I got a pretty good mic, and then I've got some audio editing software, and so I did it, and it's good. I do a little voiceover, but not a lot. I mean, it's nowadays I'm a little too 80s porn star. It doesn't really work with a lot of people now. Yeah. But that style's more in the 80s. But anyway, so I did it, and it's fine. But I think it's most people would like to hear the author, and these nonfiction, hear the author read it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
But those books, like Stolen Valor took me 4 months to write.
Whoa! It took you that fast?
Yeah, 4 months, and that was from the time that I started it. I had to do some research on human trafficking, the cartels, and everything else.
Yeah, you were telling me last time how you were scared they were going to find you because the stuff you were writing was pretty accurate.
It's in here in Texas, there's definitely some risk to it. But what's interesting is a lot of the stuff that I just guessed at. It's kind of like the tunnels. I thought, maybe they did. I've heard some rumors about it, so I wrote about the tunnels, and where it's the main character, he's in and out and so forth. Well, it turns out that's true.
Yeah.
And the human trafficking end of it, I did quite a few studies on that. Juarez, the killing fields. So Juarez, across from El Paso, it's probably got the highest murder rate of any city in Mexico. And so this human trafficking, they hide a lot of these statistics of these girls. They'll hide it in the murder rate and everything else. So you really don't know who's going to where, but it's reprehensible. But it made for a good book.
I want to send you my script because I wrote a script called The Underground, which is kind of about that, but it's kind of like, I don't want to give it away in case,
Mhm.
I sell it, but
Yeah.
I think you would really like it because it's kind of thriller-ish. So I think like yeah, and then like maybe you could help me like really polish it and stuff because it is a very dark subject and it's hard to, you know what I mean? It's really hard to like, because you to get the tone and to sell something, it's two different things. Does that make sense?
It does. And the thing about the written word, my opinion, I've seen you on stage, and as a comedian, you hit some pretty poignant marks when you do it, and it's all in the delivery, and it's a setup. In writing, a lot of times, just because you're writing, you don't control that setup, and so a lot of times things are taken out of context,
Yeah.
and so it's really it. I try not to worry too much about that, but at the same time, I try to like with all these my book series, I try to make sure that each book is a standalone. There's a lot if you read them in order, you'll get more out of it. But at the same time, of like Stolen Valor is the pilot book in that, so you read it, you'll have a great basis because it's the the origins of Carson Brand, my main
So
guy.
it's the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool,
And then
awesome.
there are three more, and I'm working on the fourth one or the fifth one. Four more. I'm working on the fifth in the series right
Yeah.
now.
I thought you
And
were saying I was reading the Empire Strikes Back one. I was like, wait, what? I read the second one.
oh no, yeah, it's personal, it's personal. But
Yeah,
yeah, those were fun to write, and it's just Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's it's a spy novel, and
yeah.
and
It's
it's a
really good. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's I think it's pretty well edited.
yeah,
And but that one it just flowed off the page, and it's interesting. A lot of those we remember when you read the book in the first scene where he gets in a fight in a bar, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that actually happened to me.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah, that actually happened to me where I had to fight a 6'6" guy, and it was so it was accurate how
So
it
sometimes when I'm reading stuff, I'm like, okay, that probably definitely happened
happened.
because I remember even when we were hanging out in San Antonio, you were talking to your son, and we were going to go to to see his friend's birthday party, which you
Yeah.
said it was a birthday party. Turns
Uh,
out it's not his birthday; it's his funeral. So,
well, the whole story is even better than that because and I, and I remember and my son goes, I told you it was a friend of mine's his and I knew this kid growing up because he and my son were friends, and I was the mean dad, be in bed alone. So slumber parties suck for everybody because they were in bed by 10. But anyway, so I knew the kid, and I kind of knew his dad, but his dad passed away, and Ryan, my son, told me, oh yeah, well, we're having this wake and everything else. Well, I don't know. I have the tendency to drink a little bourbon, some Jack Daniels every now and then, and so apparently it got crossed in my old wires. But so Keith and I, we show up. Oh, we're on our way over there, and Keith goes, "So what is this?" I said, well, it's a birthday party for his dad. I won't say the name of the kid. His dad, and he goes, and Keith goes, "You think we should get a card?" I go, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should." And we should have got a card and a cake and brought it.
we should have, but then by the time we get there, we find out it was a funeral. It was
Uh,
like I think it would have been way funny if we did,
yeah,
because no one would have blamed me. They would have just thought like, "Oh my god, why is this guy doing this?" They would
yeah,
have blamed you, which would
yeah.
have
Craig
been
Rady's a
more
dumbass.
funny.
Yeah. Part of my charm. Part of my charm. You don't have to be smart to be me. Stop
uh,
laughing. Stop laughing.
oh man. So you did now? Did I read this right? Are you also doing a movie about this, or did you already film a movie?
Yeah, we've. I those who don't know me, I do the occasional film, and I was pulled out of semi-retirement to do a movie called The Oldest Posse. This
Mhm.
is a director I've worked with a lot, and anyway, so I've done probably with him 15 or 16 films, and it's an indie thing, and they're not always high quality, but he's always been a good friend, and we like each other, and he's got a lot of skill. He's very talented. So yeah, I'll just say it's Brett William Malger. He's the writer and director of the film. Anyway, so we hadn't talked in about 5 years, and he just sent me a script. And the email
Yeah.
says, "Hey, check this out, see what you think." And so I read it. I said, "I think it's a good movie. I like it." And he goes, "Well, why don't you come audition for it?" I said, "Really?"
Oh, he made you audition.
Yeah, but and I said, "Okay," because I'm not a very good auditioner.
Yeah, I'm
But
the worst auditioner in the world.
Hermano, thank you. Somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I know enough people that I generally get roles, because they like my work and they know who I am. Anyway, so I showed up at his house and we had a card game, and he has a bar there, and we had a good time. And there were a lot of actors, some of whom I had worked with and some I had not. And what he was having me audition for is, he said pretty much I could have any role in the movie that I wanted.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I said, okay, well, and we looked, and there was some bigger ones. The longest, the one that had the most lines, and the bigger one. I thought, man, I don't know, that's cool and everything, but there was this character, which was written as he's almost comedy relief, comedic sidekick,
Yeah.
and he's the butt of all the jokes and everything else. And the character's name is Walker. That's all we know him as. He's a stranger that just kind of showed up. The rest of them are former Texas lawmen who had worked together, and they're on this pilgrimage, so to speak. One of their sons is a bad guy, and so they're going after him, and so they put the gang together to go after him again because it's. I guess the dad who was a lawman didn't have it in him to go after his own son. So anyway, these other guys did. Well, I like this character Walker because he was I didn't see him as comedic. I saw him as a little bit pathetic. This is a guy that was older. He had nothing.
Yeah.
And I did a little backstory on him that in my own head, I'm not necessarily method, but I do like to know a little bit about my roles. Anyway, so this guy, he spent a lot of time in prison, came out. He's not known as a gunfighter. He's just this old has-been. And the only time he has any kind of relationship with a woman is typically a prostitute, because no woman will have him. He has nothing to offer anyone. And so the scene opens with him walking naked in the desert.
Yeah.
And have you seen the movie?
No, but this is fascinating.
Well, so it opens with him walking naked in the desert. All he's wearing is his boots, cowboy hat, and empty gun belt covering his privates. We filmed that at the Mescal movie set over in Arizona, and that's where Tombstone was filmed there. What was Outlaw Jody Wales was filmed there. Quick and the Dead,
Young Guns, stuff like that. Yeah,
they're all filmed there. Anyway, so it was the mecca of westerns, and so I had a chance to ride a horse through the street and do some acting there. That was really fun. I didn't really expect a lot from the movie.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's indie and distribution. This guy gets it distribution, but we never get a whole lot of views. Anyway, so after the first 2 days of filming, Brett was looking at the dailies, and anyway, so I had some time off because I didn't have a very big role.
Right.
So anyway, I was driving through town, and I get this phone call from him, and he says, Craig, I've been looking at these dailies, and we need to make a change. And I said, I'm already cut,
Yeah.
And he says, no, I really like what you did. And this Walker, he's got you have changed who he is, and I want to make him more the main character, and we're going to kill off another character instead, where we're going to kill my character is going to make it to about page 26, and he's out. He's gone.
Right.
And anyway, so what we did is we carried him all the way through to the end, and he turns out to be the hero and the main guy and everything else, and which I was very gratified to not die in a movie.
Yeah. Do you die in a lot of movies?
Everything I do, I die in.
Oh.
If I was in a commercial for peanut butter, they'd find a way to kill me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's how that's how you do it, though. Because I feel like if you die in movies, it makes it, there's an old saying, like, I saw the very first Mission Impossible, right? Like, this is just an example. I'm not saying whatever, but they hired Emilio Estevez, right?
Mhm.
And Emilio Estevez was on Tom Cruise's spy team, right? And they killed him first because it was Emilio Estevez. So they wanted to give the audience like a reaction, like, oh my God, somebody we know just got killed early in the movie, like within the first 5 minutes. So now you kind of know what you're into. You know what I mean? So I always thought that is very interesting, because usually when the first person dies in a movie, people have some type of connection with them. And not really the second or the third person. It's always the first person.
Well, my experience with acting with big names, the reason we kill them off early in the films I'm in is because we don't have the budget to pay them all the way through the film.
Oh, really?
We want the name.
Yeah,
We
that
want the
might be
name.
true too.
Yeah, we want the name, but we don't want the price tag that goes with it. And I've been in a couple of those.
Yeah.
That was funny. Yeah. Uh,
But I know what you're saying, how like when you do a part so well and then they want to add that part more. Because I did this student film called Magic Touch, and I just played like the best friend, all that stuff. But the director thought I was so funny. She kept writing me scenes, and I just had to do. And the Rifters know I hate filming movies, especially if I don't really like the project. So I was just doing it to do it, but like they kept adding it, and it just got so irritating because I thought it was just so useless. Where it's like you should have just kept it at that one scene because that was the beauty of the character. Why I wanted to do it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So and then
Well,
you're
we have a
adding it, and
saying.
it's like I'm over it.
We have a saying in the country music business, and I was a professional touring drummer for a while, and country I just got into because it paid best. But yeah, once I started managing and running my own band, I would tell the fiddle player, look, I only want you to play for fiddle songs. I don't want you vamping all the way through, because the less fiddle you give the audience, the more they want it. And that means,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So less Craig Rainey, less Keith, the more they want us.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So
thank you.
you're quite the tactician. I didn't realize that you had the planning, I'm not gonna say conniving, the planning mind that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it comes with because you got to keep in mind, Craig, my entire life is just comedy and movies. Like
Yeah.
that's all I've really been into. So I know so much about that stuff.
Well, I thought that was, and it's, yes, you're my nephew, but we have not been estranged, but you live in LA and I live in Texas. But so every time we get together, I learn more about you. And you said something that was very telling, because I was saying, well, you should come out for a weekend or something like that. And you said, yeah, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind doing that, but I don't need to book a comedy show. And I go, well, why? And you said, because I am completely, absolutely in love with that's what I do, and I couldn't go someplace else and not have a chance to do some comedy.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that dedication, and it's all consuming. I think I could be a lot more successful if I adopted that credo in more of my life. So
Yeah.
that's
I mean, if you try it with something else other than a comedy, I did it with comedy. So, like, if I would have done it like with acting or whatever, maybe I'd be more successful. But the reason why comedy saved my life is because, with my autism and my learning disabilities, like, it's really let me fit in because honestly, every comedian I know has some sort of disability. So I feel I feel like we're brothers in that. You know what I mean? So I feel very relaxed, like when I'm hanging out with TJ or when I'm, even when I was hanging out with Norm, like I felt like these are my people. Like, so I connected. And like for someone who doesn't know how to connect, like it's just an amazing thing to me.
yeah. It's well, you were the master on stage. I'll tell you, it's huh. I'm always blown away how good you are and how comfortable you are in front of people, and I have great admiration for you on that.
Well, we're gonna get you up to that level, and then you could open up for us.
That's what I was hoping you would say. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, it's I wrote a joke today, and then I'm writing a few more. Uh, we'll see how it goes.
Then you just gotta try it out.
I believe I can do anything. I really do. I don't know that I'm funny because I studied under Lori Guzda, and she did a comedy acting class, two of them. I did the beginning and the advanced, and she did tell me, let me, drop a quote. She says, well, Craig, you should go to LA and try to get some work on a comedy sitcom, something like that. She goes, because it is unusual for a guy who looks like you to be funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And she said that she said I was funny. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then we did some improv, but again, that's like me talking about playing guitar around Eddie Van Halen. Oh yeah, I play a little guitar. It's talking comedy around you is
But you would be great at that because you have a very serious tone. So like you would be like, you would be like the funny guy that people don't understand he's funny. Like for example,
Yeah.
Patrick Warburton,
Mhm.
he's my adopted uncle, but like he's the perfect guy at that because like you don't know he's funny, but he's funny in everything he does because he looks so serious. So like you have that quality too. And I also wanted to say, just by like talking to you and interviewing you, you have a little Michael Madsen type in you. So
Is
like
that
I
right?
kind of, so you kind of got that star value thing. So I think that's really good.
I'm definitely bound to Whataburger when you're back in town.
Oh, nice, nice. I did want to ask you a question about the characters you wrote, like the cowboys and stuff.
Mhm.
Like how do you feel? Because there is something special about like history cowboys and outlaws and stuff that makes audiences really like them, like Billy the Kid, Jesse James, like all these guys. What do you think that's like? Even Davy Crockett from the Alamo, like
Mhm.
why do you think that there's something that people like they root for even though they know their story and they could tell their story totally different and they still be rooting for? Does that make sense? Is
Yeah,
that a good
that's
question?
wow. That's a good question. Because I was formulating my answer and uh, good switcheroo. So let me answer while I'm thinking about that. Let me. Uh, I think that the villain always defines the hero.
Yeah.
And years ago, this same director that I was working with, I've always done character work, and because I'm just 6 foot tall and usually a big guy, and usually I'm muscled up and in the gym and everything else, so I'm always the bad guy, and again always character work. And so one day I talked to Brett because he keeps casting these people and they diva out, no green M&Ms, Diet Coke. There's all kinds of stories about it, and they're real hard to work with. And when I show up, I'm off book in character, and typically I do my own costuming. And I mean, so I am ready to go. And I've done all of my prep to get there, and I always do it. And so I asked Brett. I said, "Well, man, why can't you give me a movie? Why can't you make me a lead? Because I have a great work ethic. I've got decent chops. I can hit the mark. I can convince people that I am who I say I am. And so why not?" And he goes, and nobody calls me Craig. They all call me Craig Rainey, except for you. Well, Craig Rainey is because in the local pool, there's nobody strong enough on screen or otherwise that they would believe that a character that you are as a protagonist would be afraid of them as an antagonist.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So he said, no, if there was ever a story that came out or a screenplay where the villain was the main bad guy, he goes, you got it. So that's really what got me starting writing my first book, Mascot Agua Caliente,
Yeah.
is because I wrote a novel. Well, actually, it started with a screenplay. I wrote a screenplay about the villain who's the main character. Super flawed. A lot of things wrong with this guy. He's very complex. So anyway, whoops, I should have turned on my phone.
No,
But
no worries.
what's that?
No worries. No worries.
Oh,
No.
thank you, thank you. But anyway, so uh, the villains are super important. I think that the reason that people now I've had time to think. I think the reason that people don't mind a retread, an example of this is all the Batman movies. How many times are you going to make Batman to the point it's a badge of honor to be selected to be a Batman in one of these DC movies. I think it's because these like the Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett was the most well known celebrity in the what is it 1700s in those days or 1800s. He was the most well-known guy, so everybody wants to hear about this famous guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they paint him as he showed up with the Tennessee. He showed up with his entourage.
Yeah, that's what
He's
you
the
were
famous
talking
guy. He showed up with his entourage. He wasn't much of a fighting man. They weren't fighting men. They just showed up and, oh, we're screwed. We're surrounded by 10,000 pissed off Mexicans with guns, and so they had to fight and die. So uh, I think that people are they're very interested in that kind of situation. And I mean, imagine, let's say that I'm trying to think of somebody, Brad Pitt.
about.
Brad Pitt shows up, and next thing you know, and he's done all these badass movies and everything else. and suddenly he's caught in a place where,
Who doesn't want to be? Yeah.
Yeah, and let's presume like Davy Crockett, he performs valiantly, and I mean that's a story that people would want to hear.
Yeah.
And so I think that I think it falls into the vein of Christmas carols and Christmas movies and everything. Everybody sees the same thing every year. I don't know of any song that I would want to listen to as much as I've heard Jingle Bells or White Christmas. I couldn't imagine being made to listen to that for 61 years, any other song. So anyway,
you get irritated when you hear those songs?
Oh yeah. I am. You too?
I mean, like if I listen to it now, not so much, but Christmas after like the third day of Christmas, then I have a problem with it.
I had a Norman Rockwellian upbringing, yes, but man, there's only so much Americana I can take.
But it's just like Christmas isn't for another 3 weeks. Why are we starting? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I mean, I think you know this about me. I enjoy Christmas movies. So like I find them to be funny. You know
what's your favorite one?
I love Home Alone.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So and during Christmas, I don't watch them because I think that it kind of kills the humor of it. Like part of the reason why those movies are so good is because I watch them when it's not Christmas. So it gives me the Christmas feeling. Does that make sense?
I'm not going to say it makes sense, but I do understand.
Okay, you understand.
Yeah.
Cool. So I had 3 more questions because I just got you into Breaking Bad. And I wanted to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Well,
let's set this up first because
you've been missing Breaking Bad, Craig.
I've never watched it. And what's the main character's name?
Walt.
Yeah, Walt. But what's the actor?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston. I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
In fact, what got me into Breaking Bad is I've been watching this series where he's a judge. What's it called?
Oh, The Judge. Yeah. That was a great show too.
Yeah, and I'm not finished with it, so I've been watching it. And anyway, so it's one of those things. Well, other shows you might like, and Breaking Bad came in, and I said, man, because I'm a binge watcher, and I've binged a lot of things. And my favorite one that I binged was I love The Expanse. I thought it was great.
The Expanse.
I'm kind of a sci-fi guy. I think Battlestar Galactica, beyond compare. Those kind of things are cool. But
who's in The Expanse? I'll watch that. Put that on the list.
Yeah, it's just The Expanse. It's a must see. The things, the tech in it is great too. What is his name?
Is it Netflix?
It's either that or Amazon.
Netflix or Amazon.
One or the other, yeah. But anyway, I like that. But so I after talking to you, because it's the things you might like, and we talked about Breaking Bad, and you said you've never seen it. Looked at me like I lost.
I kind of bullied you into doing it too.
You did, and I'm thankful you did. I'm up to episode 6, and you told me this, and I know you were trying to help me through it because I tried watching it one time.
Yeah,
I was busy. Something I just didn't. I went and it just never went back on the check this box that we're done. We're not going to go back to it. So anyway, after we talked, I went ahead and I started watching. In fact, I had to buy it. I had to buy the season. I mean, it's because you can't find it for free anywhere, and that's fine. Yeah. So I bought it, and you mentioned to me, you said, well, the first 2 episodes are a little bit slow. I have to admit, I don't think they were.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it. And what a cast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what a cast. And the kid that plays, that's his sidekick in this thing, man, he is so good.
Oh, you are going to love that guy.
Yeah.
Like the more you watch it, like it's one of those things where like we were talking about heroes and stuff. The more you watch it, you're gonna see. Like I don't want to spoil it, but you're gonna see who the real hero is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so like that's why his character is so important. And and like another trivia fact is when they first made that season. They were actually going to kill that character off because they wanted to make it about Walter White's story, but audiences loved him so much that they would write producers and they're like, this character is so good and he's for the whole show. Yeah. So like that's how like the fan base, if fan bases really love your character, they could save you anytime. Like they will listen to that.
Well, a lot of these things are focus grouped.
Yeah.
And I think Yellowstone, which I'm not a big fan of it, and I've cowboyed professionally, and I mean I ride professionally, I do my own stunt work and everything else. I'm not a huge fan of Yellowstone. I'm a huge fan of Sheridan. I think he's great. The guy that wrote and produced it, Sicario, one of the greatest movies ever done, and
Yeah.
he wrote it. And I love that movie. It's in my collection. If I love it, I buy it. But Taylor Sheridan, that's the name. But anyway, but Yellowstone, you could tell they focus group every episode,
Yeah.
and because the plot just meanders around, and everybody I know loves it. And I've got a friend of mine. She and her friends all just went to Montana or wherever that house is, Montana, Wyoming, and they all stayed over there. I think there's a B&B involved or something, or they rent out the room where Beth and what's his name were living anyway. So they stayed on the ranch, and they're all ate up with horses and cowboys and this kind of stuff. So anyway, I mean, people love it. I'm just not a. I watched the first couple of seasons, and anything that Beth's going to take her clothes off, and I'm going to watch.
Yeah.
But after a while, it got to me. Okay, fine, you're going to steal the Dutton Ranch. Everybody's trying to take it, and everybody's taking turns. But on this one, the characters are so well textured. His brother-in-law,
Hank. I
the
love Hank.
DA guy, his humor, how abrupt he is, but at the same time, he's not this swaggering bore all the time. There's a heart to him. There's a little bit, he's got a sense of humor. He's so well written. He's very real. He's a guy that
You could play. You could be Hank. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the sister who's, always, she's kind of paranoid and she's always negative about everything. Just everybody is so, it's very desperate, disparate. I mean, they're very different, but and it's hard to believe that a writer was able to write this many personalities and get them so right.
Yeah.
And
every episode too. Just
yeah.
So
and I'm married. My wife's in, and I've had a lot of time to watch too because my wife's in Canada. That's who was calling a second ago. She's in Canada, and so I got a lot of spare time because we have cats.
Yeah.
And anyway, but so I'm going to watch some more of it tonight. And speaking of that, I must make a confession to you. I got so bored that I went swimming with a cat sitter. It's a dude. Anyway, he came over and I said, hey Josh, you want to stick around? You want to hang out? Whatever. He goes, well, I said, I've got a swimsuit. Here's some trunks. I made him a Jack and Coke. We got in the pool.
Oh my God.
With a cat sitter.
Wow.
So,
so you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're swimming with the cat sitter.
I am, yeah.
What?
There's got to be some humor there somewhere. It's got to be a joke. But cats we have 3. And I'm tired of cats right now. They are a lot of work. And I am never going to take my wife for granted again. She takes care of these monsters. They're loud. It sounds like things are exploding downstairs when they're playing at night. I go to bed, and what the heck is that sound? It sounds like a 400-pound man is tripping through the house in the dark. And it's a cat playing with a box or something. Anyway, it's been quite the experience. And I get lonely, so cat sitter, thank goodness.
Well, you could always call me if you get lonely. Hey, Craig, I have 2 more questions for you. So this question is just kind of like a weird question on your thoughts. Like, so say Stonehenge, right? Or Stone Age, like those big stones and wherever, like no one knows how, no one knows how they got there. Right? Like, so I have a theory that, and maybe I'm just completely nuts, I don't know, but I have a theory in like 5,000 years, they're going to invent a time machine, right? And these guys, they made a time machine. They're like, hey, let's go back in the past and build all these pyramids and put these stones everywhere, and like let's really screw with America, like how this stuff, So they went in the past and they did that, right? And now they're back in the future and they're just laughing at us because we don't know how this stuff was built. Do you think that that's a realistic theory, or do you think that that's bullshit?
Well, it's it's no more bullshit than everything else. The flat earthers and everything else, which they give a very good argument for it. My theory on this is based on something I've read and seen, is that I believe that we are the second edition of human beings on this planet.
Yeah,
I think that there was a very advanced civilization before that did all this stuff. That's why you see in the pyramids that are built there, there's no way that they could be built. Everybody's trying block and tackle, levers and everything else. And I think that this advanced civilization did it. Some of these stones they're finding in these digs that have been cut with computer precision, and they're the same size, and how they fit there's I think that what happened is at one point civilization rose and then it collapsed, and we are the descendants of those who made it out,
Yeah.
and so we started all over again, and I think we're in the second ascension. And I'm not that well versed on it. I just have enough
It's
information.
interesting though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's like
Just enough information to seem like a nut, but yeah.
yeah, it's just
Mhm.
crazy. But so yeah, I agree. It's either that or my theory. It's one of those two.
Well, they're closely related. The time there are people claiming that there are time machines, like that guy in Spain. I don't know if you've seen the video where he goes to all these cities in Spain and walks around, and and he claims that he's in the future and people that have disappeared, or he's in a different. I don't speak Spanish, but he's in a different dimension. Anyway, so they'll tell him, we'll go in this airport. So the guy walks into the main airport, whatever it's, Madrid or wherever it is. He walks in the main airport. It's empty. Planes on the tarmac and everything, and it's empty. He goes into a hospital. He goes to a police station, grabs a police car, drives it away. It's according to them, and some others I've seen, they go, well, they're time machines, and a lot of it. I watch all the ghost stories and everything else because I'm always looking for more fuel, looking for more storylines,
Yeah.
and so there are people that believe that stuff. I don't know, but it is fascinating. It's a lot of fun to sit around and watch.
Yeah.
It's a good time waster for me.
Definitely. And then my last question for you, Craig Rainey, is if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, you have to talk to a younger version of yourself. It could be from yesterday or when you were a kid or whatever. Where would you go and what would you tell yourself?
I would go back to straight up. I don't really want to do this because I believe that what you get out of life is an exact proportion of what you put into it. And I also believe that the bad and the good combine to create who you are. And I'm really happy with who I am.
Yeah.
My life is an amusement park. I'm having such a good time. I'm married to the perfect girl. I've got the perfect life. We were very successful. We're fortunate. I did film because one day I decided to do it. Did I ever make it to the big time? No, because I went to Hollywood, and that time that I met up with you up there
Yeah.
and just got intimidated. I was like, man, I can't do this. And I went back to my little pond where I knew I could touch bottom. But music business, I was president of Texas Music Coalition for a year. I was a touring musician, a producer. I did a lot of stuff in studio and on stage, and so I'm saying that to answer your question. So I really would be afraid that if I told myself something, that it would change any of that. However, if I were to go back, I would go back and talk to my 14-year-old self,
Okay.
and I would tell my 14-year-old self, you need to control yourself a little more. You need to stop being so rebellious. Listen to other people. Get a college degree. Which I'm an entrepreneur. I'm self-employed or self-unemployed. I used to be. I'm self-employed now. But that's anybody that doesn't have a job or works for themselves and doesn't make much money. They're self-unemployed. But I would just say, look, there's some things that I would have done differently on my career path. But that being said, let's say I would have become, got a degree, passed the bar, become an attorney, which is what I often think I should have done. Well, I never would have acted. I would have been in the music business. I wouldn't be an author right now. You and I probably wouldn't be spending the time together we're spending. So I'm very content. But that would be my answer. Hopefully that works.
That's a great answer. I thought for sure you were going to say, I was going to go talk to my 14-year-old self and say, Craig, you got to watch Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well, Keith, I appreciate you, man.
Where can the folks follow and support you at?
Mm.
You got a website? Or
Yes, I do.
Twitter? Yeah.
No, I got all the stuff. Yeah, craigrainey.com is my website. And of course, I'm on Facebook because I'm old, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on all of them.
Yeah.
I've got a YouTube channel, and it's got quite a bit of stuff on it. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Craig, for coming back and riffing with me. And so the cool thing about Zoom is, I could see you instead of on the phone where it's like, oh, I wonder if he's talking or should I talk?
Well, last time we had the interview, I wasn't dressed. And
oh wow, holy Lord.
so I didn't feel like But I took a shower and everything for you today.
I appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks, Craig. Have a high five. And, I'll say goodbye to you once I end this. But, guys, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, and we'll see you guys next week on Reza Riffs.